Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danie Laurel. Here are today's top stories. Trade reforms and the further reopening of the economy push FDI inflows to a 4-month high in April. Should the public brace for more price increases? The Trade Department confirms it has received requests from manufacturers to hike the prices of basic goods by up to 10%. Here's some reprieve from rising prices. Meralco will reduce power rates this month while a big-time rollback in pump prices takes effect today. And the Bangko Sentral tells banks and retailers to accept the folded polymer banknotes. We begin our broadcast with net inflows of foreign direct investment surging to a 4-month high in April. Now, data from the Bangko Sentral showed that FDI inflows jumped to $989 million in April. That's a 48% increase from the same month of last year. Now, month-on-month, FDI inflows rose 36%. FDIs stand as a key source of jobs and capital for the domestic economy. Now, economists say the pickup in FDI growth reflects investors' confidence on the back of further reopening of the economy and economic reforms put in place by the Duterte administration. Recall that few months before he finished his term, former President Duterte signed into law the amendments to the Public Service, Foreign Investment Act and Retail Trade Liberalization Act. Meanwhile, fresh data from the PSA showed that exports growth remained steady month-on-month. That's at 6.2% in May. Total export sales reached $6.3 billion in May, with annual growth at 30.8%. Total imports amounted to $11.9 billion, increasing at a faster rate of 31.4% in May. That's from 29.4% in April. Trade deficit, meanwhile, widened to an annual increase of 78.6% from the 72% the month before. Now, a fresh round of oil price rollback takes effect today. On Radyo 5, Energy Department Director attributed this to the lockdowns in China and the interest hikes that helped drive down the fuel demand. Prices of diesel and kerosene are down by over 6 pesos per liter, while gasoline prices are cheaper by up to 5 pesos and 70 centavos.
Habang nandyan yung mga reason, malaki po ang tsansa na tuloy-tuloy pa rin hanggang next week. But we hope na kumagat pa rin yung mga reasons na yun, ma-extend po hanggang next week para po talaga masigurado nating may rollback.
The Trade Department says it will take a few more weeks for them to come up with a decision on manufacturers' requests for price increases. Trade Undersecretary Ruth Castelo tells the Philippine Star that they are still finalizing the recommendations on the proposals for the Secretary's approval. Undersecretary Castelo says the price increase requests range from 2 to 10% and cover sardines, instant noodles, canned meats, coffee, bread, and detergents. Now, on Monday, the agency conducted inspections in supermarkets in Divisoria to make sure that they comply with the suggested retail prices. And to talk more about this, we have on the show DTI Undersecretary Ruth Castelo. Good morning, Usec, and welcome.
Oh, hi, Danie. Good morning, everyone.
Usec, let's talk about this petition for the price increases. No, so anywhere from 2 to 10%. What are the chances that this will be approved, and how soon, ma'am?
The DTI has always tried to limit price increases to 3%, in a range of 3% to 7% or 2 to 7%. But in some cases where it becomes unavoidable, we allow increases to 10%. If it's too much for the consumer to carry or to bear the price increase, we negotiate with manufacturers to limit it at least to maybe 50% increase, and then we divide or we split the price increases into tranches to make it more to make it easier for the consumer to carry the price increase.
Okay, ma'am. So are you pushing po for a staggered increase, as you mentioned, right now? Or will there be a one-time hike? And mabilis ba i-reverse if bumaba yung inflation?
It depends. The 2 to 7% price increase that we're talking about would translate into 25 centavos to 1 peso. If it increases to maybe 150 or 2 pesos, that's the time that we ask for tranches from the manufacturers. It's actually an appeal to them to allow consumers, to give a breather to consumers so that we do not impose immediately the price increase of 150 to 2 pesos. We try to limit it as much, but of course it will take a lot of negotiation and convincing also with the manufacturers.
Ma'am, how soon could this actually be happening? And how often will this be reviewed, given the current situation?
Yes, that's right. We're actually almost done. But what happens is that after we're done with a batch of requests, another batch comes in. So this is what delays our process, because we have to review everything that is requested from the manufacturers, because no price increase will be allowed without publication. That's why we publish only one time. So all the requests for increase will have to be studied before we make a final recommendation to the Secretary and before we publish. It will take us probably a couple of weeks for us to complete and submit our recommendation for approval, and then another couple of weeks probably for the Secretary to approve and for us to be able to make the publication.
Okay, so ma'am, just to clarify, they are not allowed to do the price increases on their own without an application first from the DTI?
Yes, these are the products that are included in the suggested retail price bulletin. All other products that are outside the bulletin may move their prices, but our appeal to manufacturers is to move only at the most reasonable level, probably they can limit it to between 2 and 10% only, because this is the threshold that we allow the consumers to be able to carry the burden of the price increase.
Ma'am, we did mention earlier on in the broadcast which ones these are, canned meat, instant noodles, sardines, coffee. Do you see that the applications are all across the board for all of the SRP-linked products, or are there specific items that we will be seeing price increases for when it comes to basic goods?
There will be specific items. For example, you mentioned the products that have requested DTI. For canned sardines, there are different brands and there are different shelf keeping units. So there are around 10 SKUs in the bulletin. For instant coffee, we have around 10 to 13 shelf keeping units. So we allow only a few items, a few SKUs per item to increase at any given time. We limit it to 30% only out of the 218 shelf keeping units that we have in the bulletin. So that the consumers will find it easier to, and will have other choices also to buy when they go out in the supermarket.
Ma'am, are the price increases directly linked still to the Russia-Ukraine war, or is it for other reasons like agricultural problems that you are considering? And if so, if the oil prices do go down, are you able to negotiate better with the manufacturers?
For wheat, for bread products in the Philippines, yes, it's directly connected to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, because all other countries that buy from Ukraine and Russia that are not able to do that now gravitate towards the US, Canada, and Australia, which are the main sources of the Philippines. So yes, on bread. But for all other products, of course, there is fuel, there is foreign exchange, there is the importation of raw materials, there is logistics as well, included among the factors that we consider also in the price movement. We negotiate with the manufacturers. We appeal to their corporate social responsibility so that they will agree to tranches if ever, or agree to negotiate to a lower price increase if ever.
Ma'am, just to clarify, you are expecting price increases. So there is not going to be, even with lower inflation maybe in the next couple of months, which some are expecting, do you actually expect some items to go back to the normal prices? Or are you clear that the prices will be happening? It's just a matter of whether staggered or one-off hike?
You mean price increase?
Correct. This is almost certain.
Price increase? No, we're not yet certain. Like I said, we're still in the final stages of reviewing our recommendations for the Secretary. So we're not saying that we are definitely increasing prices, because, like I said, we're not yet done with the study.
Okay. All right. Ma'am, what about the issue of the farm gate versus retail prices? We still have a big differential between the two of these. How are you managing the retail prices of goods that the farmers are saying medyo mababa pa rin yung farm gate prices?
Yes, farm gate prices are for agricultural products. I understand because we're not from the Department of Agriculture. This is actually their mandate. I just understand that farm gate prices are the prices before the products, like for example, cattle or poultry, before they are released from the farm or before they are taken out of the farm. So this would include the feeds, the labor that is necessary to feed the animals, and then the power, also the electric consumption, whatever components they have. And then the retail price, of course, is different because there's going to be a markup from the logistics side, and then a markup from the vendor, and then of course the seller, which comes from the farm, or maybe the farmer will still have a markup. So there's a huge difference between farm gate and retail prices.
Ma'am, are you discussing with the Department of Agriculture on how to narrow this gap so that the retail prices are closer to the farm gate, or for instance the farmers get more of the share compared to the gap that's happening?
We have been working with the Department of Agriculture on this, especially during the time when the African swine fever is around the country. I don't know if it's still here right now, but especially during that time when we had to assist the DA in pricing pork, whether it's imported or local. But right now, we will have to connect with them again and see how we can assist in terms of pricing for agricultural products.
Ma'am, at this point, given the possibility of price increases, is importing the only way forward, and perhaps a temporary lowering of import tariffs? Is this being encouraged by the DTI to at least reduce the burden on consumers?
If there is shortage of supply in the Philippines, if there is shortage in local manufacturing, yes, importation will help a lot. It will help in lowering down price because then we will have more than enough supply. And we understand that the law of supply and demand, if there is low supply and there is high demand, prices will really go up. So only when there is shortage in supply in the Philippines would importation be able to help in lowering down our prices. And I understand that's what the government is doing, to lower the prices in the local market on local products. We import some so that we can add to the supply and address the demand.
Okay. Ma'am, if the retailers are found in violation of the SRP, what actually is there some sort of penalty, punishment that they would face here?
Yes, the first step that we do is to issue a letter of inquiry to the retailers and then find out what causes them to increase their prices above the suggested retail price. If we do not find any justification, that's the time that we issue a notice of violation to the retailer. But a lot of times we find justification as well because the cost of procurement from the manufacturer or the chain of manufacturers and distributors that they have might also be the reason for the increased price in the retail market. That's why we have to find out first and discuss this matter with the retailers themselves so that we will understand and then probably find justification in their price increases.
All right, so closely watching out for that, of course, and how the prices will be moving. Thank you so much for that update. That was, of course, Ruth Castelo, DTI Undersecretary. Now, pausing for a quick break, but coming right up after that, Meralco will reduce power rates this month. We'll tell you the amount when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us. You're still watching Businessworld Live here on One News. I'm Danie Laurel. Meralco customers expect your power bills to get lower this month. This as Meralco is reducing about 71 centavos per kilowatt hour. That's after the energy regulator called for a refund of a previous overcollection. That's equivalent to a 141 pesos to 353 peso decrease in this month's power bill. Although the power company said they are not yet sure if the lower rates will apply in the coming months.
We'll know from our suppliers what the updated Malampaya price will be, which will be reflected in the August generation charge. In terms of the exchange rate, yun, kailangan natin bantayan what will be the final exchange rate by the end of July. As Joe mentioned earlier, as we showed in the slide, yung for June, very steep yung naging depreciation. So we're hoping that the peso might recover.
Now, Meralco also assured customers that they will not raise rates yet. That's despite the Supreme Court upholding the ERC's decision to allow the company to collect over 22 billion pesos. This amount will allow Meralco to recoup its losses back in 2013.
There is still subject to a motion for reconsideration, so we don't know if the parties file that, no? And then assuming that the order will be final and executory, dadaan pa yan sa Energy Regulatory Commission for, I guess, a final validation before a decision on the final rates will be met. Hindi pa ito final and executory at meron pang magaganap na pangyayari na magiging pinal na proseso at eventually resulta kung ano yung magiging final rates.
Can shops refuse the folded 1,000 peso polymer bills as payment? Well, the BSP says folded banknotes, whether made of paper or polymer, are valid for payment transactions. In a statement, the central bank says retailers and banks should accept the folded bills for day-to-day payment transactions. This clarification comes after reports of establishments rejecting the folded 1,000 peso polymer banknotes surfaced online. SM Supermalls has also clarified that folded banknotes are still accepted in their retail stores. The company says bills that will not be accepted are only those that are mutilated, stapled, and ripped. Malacanang clarifies Raphael Lotilias' appointment as energy chief is still up in the air. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles explained that the designation of Lotilia remains a nomination pending clarification of his employment status. Cruz Angeles said Lotilia is President Marcos's personal choice to head the department, but he is currently an independent director of Aboitiz Power and ACE Enexor. The DOE charter provides that no officer of any private company shall be eligible for appointment as Energy Secretary 2 years from retirement, resignation, or separation. The palace says it has to be determined whether an independent director is considered an officer of the company. Now, despite this, public policy think tank InfraWatch PH is looking forward to working with Lotilia. Senator Win Gatchalian also welcomed Lotilia's designation as energy chief. The Food and Drug Administration says Lucky Me Noodles manufacturer Mondanisan is compliant with the local food safety requirements. That is after some European countries issued health advisories due to the presence of residual ethylene oxide in the brand's Pancit Canton products. The agency explains the EU has zero tolerance for ethylene oxide, but here in the Philippines, the chemical is allowed for gas sterilization of certain agriculture products, although the FDA will await the results of its tests and inspections before taking further action. The Philippine Retailers Association, or PRA, is keeping a positive outlook for the rest of 2022. That's as the public picks up its pre-pandemic consumption patterns. PRA President Rosemary Ong says they are expecting growth in the second quarter to be even better than the first. Ong added that the pandemic is largely under control since the majority of Filipinos have already been vaccinated. But she also said PRA members are reporting challenges in logistics due to a world container shortage as the world ramps up from the pandemic. And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Danie Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse when Business World Live returns. Stay with us. And you're still watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel, kicking off the market report with the peso trading at its weakest level in over 2 decades. You can see that on my terminal here. We have breached the 56 level to the greenback, trading at 56.323. This, of course, comes amid the reports that we showed earlier on with our trade deficit widening to a record high, the highest we've ever seen in the country. So you can see here the chart since 1992 until 2022, and our level of the peso definitely weakest that we've seen here. Now let's take a quick peek at how our own bourse is actually performing today. Let's take a quick check on that. That is going down. Again, this is the same direction that the peso is going. So weakening a touch, down 10 points, down by 0.2% to 63.78 after we had already breached the 6,400 levels. But this might be good news according to COL Financial. They say that Philippine stocks may actually be ripe for accumulation. She says that the worst, this is April Lintan from Call Financial, the worst might actually be over when it comes to inflation, interest rates, and the peso. It's a good time as well for fixed income and REITs. And she is looking, of course, at what's going to be happening offshore, but she says it might be a good time to be coming in. We are also going to be watching out for the offshore earnings season, especially in the United States, to be kicking in. They are expecting a slowdown when it comes to corporate earnings. Let's take a quick peek at the big movers of the bourse here as we are 30 minutes into the trading day. JG Summit and Emperador leading the gains. Earlier on, we did already see Emperador gaining the best performer on the bourse on Monday. This, of course, on the back as they have already set their secondary listing date in Singapore. They will be starting to trade on the main board of the Singapore Exchange on July 14th. Now, they will be trading under the stock code EMI but will maintain the primary listing on the PSE. And if that happens, that will be the first PSE company company to have another listing over in Singapore. Now, what is the reason for this? President and CEO Winston Ko did mention this will expand the opportunities for the participation of investors over in Singapore. So you can see Emperador trading here at 2.29. Let's just take a quick peek at how that's actually performed in the past 3 days since that announcement of the listing coming in, up by 1.13%, trading at 17 pesos and 19 centavos. And that's it for today, July 12, 2022. Join us again tomorrow. That's exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.